Welcome back to another High School Principal Reacts reaction video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Ferris Bueller's Day Off from 1986. This is an absolute classic. I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s seeing bits and pieces of this movie. I've never actually seen the whole entire thing from beginning to end until doing this video. I suspect that some things will be different from the 80s until today in education. If you're enjoying this series, please let me know in the comments what you'd like me to review next. I did get this idea from a viewer. Let's get into it.
Here.
Anderson. Anderson.
Here.
Bueller. Bueller.
There it is.
Bueller.
Yeah, I do remember this classic scene. If you grew up with this, you remember, for years hearing Ben Stein. I love Ben Stein in this movie. Him saying Bueller, Bueller like that. It's really interesting because so many teachers still take attendance this way. We have very sophisticated attendance tracking systems and the data that's stored in our computer system for student attendance. But many times it's still done this way with calling every single student's name. A lot of teachers still do that.
Bueller.
He's sick. My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from the sky and this kid is going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night.
Yeah, so if you're a teacher, you can probably relate to this. So many times there'll be a teacher calling roll, and if a student's absent, some other student will have some far-fetched story about why they think they're not there. It's usually not true, whatever that story is. Occasionally it is, but it's something like this. They're kind of poking fun at it. Oh, my brother's cousin's boyfriend's whatever saw him, and that's why he's not here. Some wild story like that. So I've seen this before.
In the opinion of this educator, Ferris is not taking his academic growth seriously. Now, I've spent my morning
Mr.
examining
Rooney.
his records, holding him back for another year.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I noticed Mr. Rooney here, the principal, his nameplate said Dean of Students. You don't really see that anymore. This may have been something that was more common back in the day. Today, it's just principal or sometimes headmaster for private schools. Dean of Students, you do see it in another way. A lot of times you'll have a school that will have someone called Dean of Students that's really either a assistant principal or a teacher leader who's in charge of student culture and other student services, and they call that person the Dean of Students. I saw his computer there. This is clearly from the 80s. Mr. Rooney's computer looks quite old. And with him saying that he'd have no problem holding Ferris back another year, I don't know that that's done very often. It's a little bit different depending on where you're located. Different school districts have different rules about this as far as whether students have to make up what's known as seat time or not, which is the time that a student is actually seated in class or attending class and not absent. So that's going to depend on where you're at, whether students have to somehow make up that time or not.
My dear, I'm afraid that I'm the bearer of bad tidings. Your father called. Your grandmother has just passed.
And I'm laughing because, this Ferris has made this up and called pretending to be her father, saying, hey, her grandmother has died, please release her from school. And it's likely so far this is, if someone called claiming this, they might pull her out of class and say, hey, someone called and delivered this message and they're going to come get you or whatever. And she's kind of pretending. And of course, the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the whole premise is he's doing all this to just get a day off so that he and his friend and his girlfriend can just go kind of have a good time in the city. But she's just acting here. We'll see what happens next.
Now, boy, what a blow.
Well, it's been a tough morning, and we've got a lot of family business to take care of, so if you wouldn't mind excusing Sloan, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I'd be happy to. Yeah, you just produce a corpse and I'll release Sloan.
Produce a corpse.
dead grandmother firsthand.
Yeah, so that would probably get you fired or at least disciplined in some way. So he is the Mr. Rooney here is pretty sure that it's Ferris on the other line. And he's saying, yeah, sir, just produce a corpse and I'll allow your daughter to get out of school. Obviously, you would never ever say that. I have had the situation happen a few times where a close relative of a student had passed away, and the parent would call and say, "Hey, we'll be there here shortly." Or more often than not, they just show up and say, "Hey, this is what happened," and it's usually no problem whatsoever. You would never say, "Hey, I want to see this dead grandmother face to face," is what Mr. Rooney said here.
Mr. Peterson? No, I think I owe you an apology, sir.
Well, I should say you do.
So yeah, Ferris calls while he's talking to who he thinks is Ferris, but it's actually his friend pretending to be this girl's father. Now he's all messed up because he thinks he said to the actual father, "Yeah, just produce the corpse." So we'll see how he gets out of this. Classic.
Oh, Sloan, dear. Hurry along now.
I guess that's my dad.
Yeah, so up until now, it's been kind of plausible, someone impersonating a parent and making up a story about the dead grandmother. But now checkout procedure, that's totally different. If you work in a school, you know that there's going to be some sort of checkout procedure. Even if a grandmother or family member had died, you're going to have some sort of process where the parent goes in, verifies their identity for obvious reasons, and then checks the student out of school. So up to now, Ferris would have been okay, but Mr. Rooney should not be doing this and just allowing her to go with whomever. He doesn't know who that is. Unless you personally know, hey, that's her father, you're not going to do this, and you're still going to have them come inside the school and go through the proper procedure here. So unfortunately, Ferris wouldn't be able to get away with this part. See, now he knows. Yeah, see, now he knows. If Ferris had just slowly driven away quietly, he would have gotten away with it. But then the movie wouldn't be quite as interesting. And now Mr. Rooney knows he's been duped, and he's going to try to do what he can to beat Ferris at his own game.
We've had a death in a family.
Grace, Ferris Bueller's behind this. There is no doubt in my mind. And now he's got Sloan Peterson involved in this thing.
Her grandmother, too.
The grandmother that died, she's involved also.
Future. 15 years from now, when he looks back on the ruin his life's become, he is going to remember Edward Rooney.
Yeah, so Mr. Rooney's getting a little bit fixated on Ferris. Unfortunately, I've seen this happen before. Someone will get upset with a student and feel like they're getting away with something, or that they want justice. Of course, we all want justice and fairness, but they'll become fixated on a particular student or situation and go a little bit too far. And so I suspect that's what's going to happen with Mr. Rooney here, with him saying he wants to basically ruin his future. We'll see what happens here. This him. Yep. Yeah. So principals of schools do not go on manhunts for students when they skip one day of school. It's never a positive thing when that happens, but you're not going to leave the 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 students that you have and go searching for one that skipped school. You're just not going to do that. But obviously, Mr. Rooney here is kind of obsessed with Ferris and wants to get even at this point. Okay. Yep, he's gone to his house looking for him. Yeah, so principals also do not go to people's houses when they skip school. The exception would be in the case of a serious situation. I've gone to students' houses when, for example, a close family member has died and you just want to kind of show support on behalf of the school, or something where a student has just disappeared for a long period of time and you're needing to either, send a social worker or go over there with the social worker. And really your objective is just to say, hey, is everything all right? Do you need assistance? And just kind of restore that line of communication. You're not going on a manhunt or playing detective trying to, catch a student in a lie or that they're skipping school by going over to their house in the middle of the day. You're just not doing that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't come to the door right now. I'm afraid that in my weakened condition, I could take a nasty spill down the stairs and subject myself to further school absences. You can reach my parents at their places of business. Thank you for stopping by.
Okay.
I appreciate your concern.
So now he knows Ferris has made this recording and he's thinking, how can I get into this house? And nobody in their right mind would do this, obviously, but it's a movie. We're going to see what happens here. Don't do it. Oh, don't do it, Mr. Rooney. And that's why you don't break into people's homes, or one of the many reasons. So yeah, nobody in the right mind would do this. I'm not sure why Mr. Rooney is going to such great lengths here. Obviously, if he enters their home, he's committing a crime. He's then breaking and entering. So again, principals do not go to people's houses for this reason. Mr. Rooney obviously has some sort of obsession with trying to get even with Ferris.
For years, he has been making fools with me.
And at this point in the movie, I skipped past some of the stuff that didn't have anything to do with the school, but he's been chewed up and kicked and fallen down and all sorts of other things here. And he's just kind of given up at this point.
Hey, Mr. Rooney, what's going on? Did you get in a fight? Want a lift?
Guess he's going to take him up on it. They're like, what is going on? Look at the hairstyles too. You can tell this is an 80s movie, all the poofy hairstyles there on the bus. Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there. That was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you enjoyed this one, I hope you check out my Napoleon Dynamite video or my Billy Madison video. And if you know of some content on social media or a film or a TV show in an educational setting that you'd like me to do next, please leave it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time on High School Principal Reacts. Thanks for watching.